Good evening, everyone. As we begin this meeting, I will ask everyone present to please silence cell phones and other electronic devices. I'll remind council that our procedure bylaw prescribes the use of technology during council meetings. I'll ask you to give me a moment to do exactly that. Thank you. It is 6:30 p.m. I will call this council meeting to order. And we acknowledge that we gather on the traditional territory of the Mississauga and Anishinaabe, now of Alderville First Nation. We honor their enduring relationship with this land and recognize the deep cultural and historical significance of their contributions to our community. We reaffirm our commitment to listening, learning, and working in partnership with Indigenous peoples. In our discussions on community involvement, environmental stewardship, and community development, we pledge to respect Indigenous rights and perspectives. Together, let us strive for a future rooted in equity, sustainability, and reconciliation where all voices are valued and all communities thrive. I have a motion moved by Councillor Rowley, seconded by Deputy Mayor Anderson, that Council approve the April 20th, 2026 agenda as presented. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Being none opposed, that motion's carried. Members of Council, have you any declarations of interest, and if so, please state the general nature thereof. There are none noted. Are there any announcements this evening? Councillor Rowley?
Well, thank you, Mayor. I have two, if that's allowed. So the first is this upcoming Thursday, April 23rd. We have our volunteer recognition event at the community center. Hope to see most of council and some of our staff there. The second is next week is Smile Cookie Week in support of Sunny Days this year. So hopefully, if you haven't got time to help, maybe stop by and pick up some more sweets.
Councillor Wheeldon.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to remind everyone that on Saturday, April 25th at 10 a.m., Parks and Rec is putting on the Sport and Recreation Showcase. Chance to see everything that you can get up to in Brighton in terms of sports and recreation at King Edward Park Arena.
Not everything, but everything that's used in our facilities. Just there are other sports and rec opportunities in the community that aren't showcased there, but we'll maybe do that again next year, see how it works out. But yes, that's next Saturday. Thank you, Jeff. Anything else? We were honored to be able to place a plaque in memory of former councillor Chuck Ward 2 Saturdays ago at what I think most of us think of as Chuck's Corner, where he stood on duty as a crossing guard for the past many years. He was also a crossing guard in Smithfield for the Smithfield Public School children as well. So my thanks to Caroline, who I failed to thank in public at that Saturday, and to our fire department and other emergency services for their help and assistance and being on guard that day. It was very much appreciated by the family and by me. Thank you. Any other announcements? Brings us into adoption of the minutes, and I have a motion moved by Councillor McCausland, seconded by Councillor Wheeldon, that Council adopt the April 7th, 2026 regular Council meeting minutes and the April 13th, 2026 Council planning meeting minutes as presented. Is there any discussion? All in favor? There being none opposed, that motion's carried. We have no statutory public meeting this evening. There's nothing under delegations or presentations. Madam Clerk, is there any citizens' comment this evening? There are none. That takes us into staff reports. The first report is with regard to private road maintenance and capital improvements. Director Lennon, we've read your report. Do you have anything to add or highlight, sir?
Nothing further to add at this time, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I have a motion moved by Councillor Butwell, seconded by Councillor Wheeldon, that Council receives the private road maintenance and capital improvement report, and that Council directs staff to amend the private road grant policy to allow for professional engineering services as part of the eligibility criteria. Is there any discussion? Councillor Rowley.
If we're going to add that, and that's going to cost some expense, will there be opportunity then for those private road owners to would that be above the maximum of the 5,000 that they are now eligible for? in grant money. Would that be an extra?
Director?
Through you, the intent of adding those services to be eligible for the funding is if a private road association chose to do the appropriate engineering to upgrade the road, they could do that in advance. And then, maybe in a later year, do the construction. Gives them more flexibility under the same rules that the grant currently exists in. In the report, I do mention that should council decide to change that budget under future budgets, that would be completely up to council.
Councilor Butwell?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, and to the director, Mr. Lennon. Mr. Lennon, were any discussions had around potentially offering low interest loans, I'll call it, with any of these private road groups, where they might then be able to split up the expense over a number of years amongst those in the road association? Or has that step been reached yet?
Director?
Through you, as part of the research, we looked at what a lot of other municipalities do who have a number of private roads in similar situations as us. I couldn't come across anything like that where associations leaned on the municipality for that funding, but they would have an opportunity, I would imagine, privately to pursue that type of loans scenario.
I'd look to Mr. Creamer, but I think it's not appropriate for the municipality to grant loans of that nature. Treasurer? You got it.
Sorry about that, through your worship. I'd want to investigate further. My initial reaction would be, the municipality shouldn't be acting as a lender in most situations. There are situations, but in this situation, I would think that that's not really what we're looking to do. But I could report back with a yay or nay on that.
I think if we go down that road, we'd be looking for that advice, but at this stage, we're not. Go ahead, Councilor Butwell.
Thank you very much, and to Mr. Creamer. So I'm thinking that based on this report, the amount of financing that they would need would be fairly significant, depending on how the road was maintained and possibly rebuilt and to what standard. But the municipality has provided financing to other bodies. I'm thinking of the former Brighton Auxiliary Rescue Unit and there was like and I understand, I heard the word service behind. It is a service group, but I'm seeing that the asset, which is the home, could then be, it could be applied as a property tax, a special levy on the taxes, that kind of thing. I would be interested to find out, because I know with Willow Point in particular, and I've not driven on all of them, but that road there are some very low-lying areas. It is really an interesting excursion and down there. And there are, there's a lot of road to get to it as well. So I would be interested in hearing, if you wouldn't mind popping an email out if you found anything interesting.
Through your worship, special levies can be applied in certain situations. Typically, they're more to larger areas. Trying to apply it to small one-off roads can be very difficult, and oftentimes not possible even. So again, we could look at some of these options, but I caution that I'm not sure something like that is possible.
Go ahead.
Thank you, and thanks for the answer. I don't think the next part of my question applies to you. Not quite sure where it does apply. So if we have a homeowners association that is on a road such as Willow Point, that they are at the end of a long section that's in a state of disrepair now, and the internal roads are as well. If they cannot maintain them, where does that leave the municipality in terms of how do we help them if they need emergency services? Like, do we end up getting backed into a corner where we're going to have to do it anyways?
Director Lennon.
Through you, the answer, I guess, is yes. The municipality would have an expectation that the level of the condition of the road would be sufficient for emergency vehicles. And at that point, if it wasn't, we would ask the association to perform the necessary upgrades. If they did not do that, I'm not aware of a circumstance where this has happened in my research, but municipality may have the ability to perform those minor upgrades to allow for emergency access and then charge that back on their taxes. But again, I couldn't find an example where that happened.
Councillor Wright?
Through Mr. Mayor, along the same lines, how is that monitored? Because I'm thinking if there's sort of no policing of the situation of the roads themselves, and there's 12 of them, does it come down to someone needing emergency services and then, oh my goodness, we can't get to them kind of a thing? Or is that monitored all along and then enforced through the associations?
Director.
Thank you. And through you, there's no active patrol program for Public Works to patrol those roads. I know historically staff do drive them for that purpose, essentially, just to see what things look like. I can't speak to the fire department if they've done any sort of inspections on those roads, but if something were obvious and could be identified, then we would certainly do that, but there is no formal process to patrol them.
I cautiously note that we have roads owned by the municipality that need significant repair, that emergency services have contacted me about saying this road was hard to get down during an emergency. And I've certainly passed that along to the director, and we have a plan in place for that particular rural road. But so I'm just conscious of the fact that we have a duty to perform road maintenance on existing municipally owned roads, and I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on private roads where the duty is to be borne by the property owners association, or what the property owners of the area that use the road. I guess that's the only comment. The other comment I would make, if I may, is that there was a note in the report about potentially needing land acquisition if we were to upgrade the road or need to upgrade the road. I don't know what, or if we even have a policy in this regard, but should we come up with a policy, I would hope that the land acquisition would be by donation by the property owners who are affected, not through expropriation means. At the end of the day, this is an upgrade on a private road to make sure people can get to their own homes, but it's not taking over a private road and making a municipal roadway out of it. Could have done that a long time ago if that was the intent. Any other discussion on the motion? Go ahead, Councillor Belwell.
Thank you. And I think I had best ask the CAO this question. In this report, it's not marked, but could I get an email just with the names of the private roads? I don't want to ask the directors directly to do something for me.
CAO?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Butwell, we can chat about that tomorrow morning at senior management to ensure we get you that list.
Thank you both. Councillor Butwell, this is your motion, and you made a note that you would like some information around possible financing options. Would you like that added to the motion to provide that direction to staff?
I would actually very much like that. Thank you.
And for staff, if I draft this to say that council directs staff to provide financing options, is that clear enough? As the mover, is that okay? Councillor Wheeldon as a second, are you okay with that? Is there any further discussion on the motion? Go ahead, Councillor Rel.
I just want to add to Councillor Butwell's request regarding the names of the private roads. Do we know the total kilometers that these private roads take up for the 12? Just asking. I know right now we're just looking at Willow Point, but
I'm sure that can be part of the list.
that's what I'm saying.
Would you like that codified in the motion as well? You're good. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Anything further from members of council? All those in favor? Are there any opposed? That motion is carried. Next report is with regard to shared emergency services facility and substation financing and funding framework. Treasurer Creamer, we've read your report. Do you have anything to add or highlight?
Through your worship, just want to highlight that I know this report is a little bit of a long time coming, and thank council for the patience. It's been since joining, just taking the necessary time to understand the financial position and be in a position to provide this report. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Treasurer. I have a motion moved by Councillor Wright, seconded by Councillor Rowley, that council receive this report for information and that council direct staff to proceed with preliminary design finalization and detailed cost estimation for both the proposed shared emergency services facility and the proposed substation south of the tracks, to continue site evaluation for the substation and to commence formal negotiations with the County of Northumberland on the terms of a shared facility agreement incorporating a long-term lease agreement. Is there any discussion from members of council? All in favor? There being none opposed, that motion's carried. Next staff report is Community Grants in Aid Program Policy Review and Direction. Treasurer Creamer, we've read this report. Do you have anything to add or highlight?
Through your worship, I'm just going to hand it off to the CAO Arthurs for brief comment.
Thank you, CAO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a comment on the report with regard specifically to the busing for the schools. Within the report, we've just identified, we've had some inquiries already. And I know we talked about a formal policy for submission. So within this report, we've just captured at this point, we will reimburse based at $5,000 per school. And we will come back towards the end of this fiscal year, our calendar year, to report on what we may want to do for 27. I think there's some urgency sort of to get this rolling, and the schools are anxious. So we've just included in this report that we will do that. So I just wanted to highlight that so council was aware.
Thank you, CAO. The schools are anxious and grateful. Had lots of feedback. So thank you for all of those involved in getting this program, that particular portion of the program, underway. I have a motion moved by Councillor McCausland, seconded by Councillor Wheeldon, that council receive this report for information and provide direction to staff on the preferred administrative model for the Community Grants and Aid Program, including the adoption of a tiered hybrid model as described herein, as a preferred approach for program administration with tiered delegation by grant amount, the creation of a separate standing grant stream for cemeteries and comparable heritage essential service organizations exempt from the annual competitive process, the authority for multi-year grant agreements of up to 2 years for qualifying organizations in good standing, and that staff be directed to return with a revised grant and aid policy for council approval reflecting the direction provided. Is there any discussion? Councillor Butwell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to propose that we divide this motion up. There are parts of it that I can really get behind, and there is at least one part that I have some concerns about. So I'd like to make a motion to divide.
A motion moved by Councillor Butwell that the motion be divided. Is there a seconder? Councillor Wright. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion's carried. So a divided motion is still using the same mover and seconder as the original motion. So therefore, I have a motion moved by Councillor McCausland, seconded by Councillor Wheeldon, that council receive this report for information and provide direction to staff on the preferred administrative model for the Community Grants and Aid Program, including the first part, the adoption of a tiered hybrid model as described herein as the preferred approach for the program administration with tiered delegation by grant amount. Is there any discussion? Councillor Wielden.
Thank you, Mayor. I really like this whole report. It was very clear, and lots of reference to research and common practice in other municipalities. Thorough and clear and excellent. I like option 4. And I wonder if, actually, maybe my question is if another part of this now divided motion. I apologize. Never mind. I'll save it.
Parking the comment. Thank you. Any other discussion on essentially number 1? All those in, go ahead, Councillor Bowell.
Thank you very much. And this is the one part of this motion that I didn't 100% get behind. I don't mind option 4. I just really prefer that there is a, how do I put it? We had discussed at one point the financials that were being put forward. There had been some questions through the last number of years about where those financials came from. I know we had talked, I had mentioned with the CIO earlier on that something a little bit tighter in terms of verifying and vetting. And I don't necessarily know how that gets addressed in number 4.
CAO.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor. I suppose I could hand this over to the treasurer. I think the intent with this is to come back with that specifically so that there is a mechanism, so that there's a policy and that council can see the framework. So this report wasn't essentially to drill down on some of that. It was more the high level. Is this the direction council wants to go? And we will come back, or our treasurer will come back with something more robust about how we're going to evaluate and what kind of information we might be looking for. So my suggestion would be, if that is your concern with this, we can certainly take that back, and we'll be sure to identify that when we come back specifically with the policy for feedback. And at that point, if it's not enough, or you wanted to see something different, we could chat about that.
As a follow-up then, so there will be another opportunity to have that conversation about, because I trust staff to make the right decisions. I mean, I think council's done a pretty good job through the years of allocating. I just know that with more and more people asking, we need to ensure that the not-for-profits and nonprofits and community groups accurately reflect where they're coming from and what their forward intentions are. I know that audited financial statements were something that I was very much interested in seeing, especially from the larger amounts, the people in receipt of the larger amounts. And it sounds like those amounts, those ones will still come before council. So as long as there are further opportunities to have these conversations, then I'm willing to defer to you and to Mr. Creamer.
Thank you for that, treasurer.
Through your worship, that's definitely the intent here. So I think if we look at the 2 levels, we have up to 10,000 and then over 10,000. The under 10,000 will have a little bit more of a simplified application, where something like financials may not be, like audited financial statements may not be required. But for applications over 10,000, that would definitely be something, I think, you know, in the municipalities I've worked at, that's something we've asked for the larger applications, to be able to assess the financial need for the request. The other big piece to what we have, what we're proposing, is a standardized scoring matrix. And so when we're laying out the criteria of how we want to allocate the funds, what the objectives of the program are, there will be a standardized scoring matrix that we're going to look at. It's public information. That scoring matrix will be more or less the same no matter the amount that's being applied, and every application would be scored. And if it meets, and you know, we're going to have certain amounts that we have to divvy up, and if it meets the criteria and it scores high, then you know, staff will recommend it. And if it's over 10,000, it's still, staff will assess the application, but it will be up to council for approval.
Go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Creamer. So again, great, wonderful. I really appreciate the
Councillor Botwell, could you speak into your microphone?
lost my train. I was complimenting you. So I just want to say that I noticed the subtle changes since you've started, and I really appreciate that. It seems like you have an eye towards oversight, which I really nerds me out, and I love it. So would there also be, I know part of our existing policy is that those who are in receipt report back. Is that going to be built into this new one as well? Like with like a receipted type of process, or is that something that's yet to be determined?
Through your worship, I think the details like that are to be determined. Now, in a previous municipality I worked at, I ran a similar program to this, and it was always if they came back for another request, that was always our opportunity to audit. Now, we did reserve the right to audit at any time. I think for some of the larger requests, we did carry that out, but depending on the dollar value, we would use discretion and especially for the groups that kept coming back every year, we definitely requested information on how the funds were used in previous years.
Go ahead.
Last one, I promise. And in the option 4, there was no limit on the request, correct? It was just over 10,000, under 10,000?
Through your worship, that's correct. Whatever an organization wants to request, that'd be up to them. I know we go through similar discussions when the municipality is applying the grants. What are you more likely to be successful with? So it's a strategic thought and part of their application.
Thank you both. Councillor Wright.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Creamer. I think my question was just more related to the amounts that for Stream B and Stream C. I have concerns about the dollar amount that council would not have oversight for because this is public money. And I'm just wondering how you came up with the up to 10,000 and the over 10,000. I'm just wondering if the up to 10,000 shouldn't be maybe about half that.
Treasurer.
Through your worship. Bit of an art here more than a science, I'd say. So we did have it at 5,000, and I think we went back and forth, and we're open to feedback. That's one of the things we're looking for feedback on. I think we looked at the number of applications. We went through, the last year of applications and the type of applications that were coming in under 10,000. We felt they were a little bit more standard, and we'd be in a position that we'd be able to score them accordingly and put an approval on that to meet, as long as they were meeting the objectives of the program. But again, this is really what the intent of this report is, to look for feedback on that type of information.
Councillor Wheeldon.
Thank you, Mayor. It strikes me in this conversation that with the rubric in place, when we get a report about this, even for the ones that we weigh in on in the larger stream, they're going to be scored for us. And so there's going to be a lot less of our usual work of hemming and hawing about or asking a lot of questions about. Instead, we're just going to have it laid out on a chart for us of which ones scored highest and at what amounts. In terms of the amounts given or requested, I kind of like not having an upper limit on it, because when you say it's up to $20,000, lo and behold, they all want $20,000. If you say, tell us how much you need to do a good job at the thing that you're trying to do, then they get a bit more specific about what it is they actually need. And so I kind of like that. in terms of the difference between 5,000 and 10,000, with that staff oversight and that rubric that we're going to see, I'm not sure there's a significant difference in my mind, because there's going to be maybe more oversight on this having been graded on a rubric than almost any other expenditures that we have here. And one of the things that I've been the least comfortable with in this entire process has been that it seems like the most oversight of any part of the budget goes to the smallest amounts, going to the people in the community who are otherwise volunteering their time much of the time. And so I like having a system of grading them, and I like having council oversight, but at the end of the day, I do want to I like having a system that doesn't mean that we are putting people through the ringer for what are actually the rounding errors of our budget.
Thank you for that. Sia, would you remind me, what staff's purchasing authority is without requiring it to come to council? Did you say $20,000? Thank you. Okay.
Thank
I was just curious whether we were talking in that neighborhood, but we're talking half of that. So that's interesting. Go ahead, Sia.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, if I could just add one thing. I believe when we took a look at last year's submissions for the grants and aid program, there was, and maybe Treasurer Creamer can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there was only one that actually came in between 5,000 and 10,000. And it was in the amount of 7,500, and it's one that comes in annually. So that was the reason that at that point we looked at it and said, okay, maybe we'll move to 10. And we wanted to differentiate from what the current program was so that council had something to discuss and put some different parameters in place.
Councillor Boutwell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And to the CAO, I suppose 10 seemed high to me, but I understand. I understand. My concerns stem from there being a finite amount of money. And if we don't have an upper limit, and that upper limit, I guess there is no upper limit, and we end up with even if it's a one-time ask of a significantly larger amount, and it could be very valid, that it could leave all of these other smaller grants knocked off the table. If we have higher grant asks overall, we are actually going to have potentially less impact across the greater community.
Thank you for that. I would anticipate that when staff brings back the policy, it would say something about what happens if all the under $10,000 asks amount to the majority of the grant application and then ask council then to start helping make some decisions. Because if we get 15 $10,000 grant asks, we're done, right? There's no ability then to offer additional grants outside of that. So staff are getting the hint. Councillor Wielden. Oh, sorry, Councillor Rowley.
I wanted to make a comment around the same thing when I see on page 1 that the annual envelope was 1.5% of the previous years, and later on, I believe on page 4, it goes down to 1%. So we're going to hand out less, but as you say, if we get more of the closer to $10,000 ones, we're gonna blow it before we get finished, is my concern. People will ask for more if we're going to offer them more or allow them to ask for more.
We're not really going to hand out less. We're just moving some items into a different stream so that they won't have to come for application. So don't forget things like the cemeteries won't have to go through this application process. It'll be part of our annualized granting program in order to make sure those cemeteries remain in volunteer hands. Treasurer?
To your worship, I think this is great feedback and the type of feedback we're looking for. So, hearing some of those comments around what the potential of 10,000 could mean in terms of the volume and what that could look like, some of the risks that would put us in as staff, and if we're saying it meets all the criteria and so therefore we're approving it and then we're eating up all the value. And so, I am hearing that maybe 5,000 is actually a good amount because of the volume, that there'd be a lot less risk to eat up a bigger chunk of the available budget.
Councillor Wielden?
My question was around the 1% as well. I think you mostly answered it. The only thing I'll add at this point is just that I don't think we are in danger of underinvesting in our community volunteers. And this money kind of becomes a force multiplier. If we were to try and reproduce these services that people in our community are providing through these programs, it would cost us 5 times as much to do the same job. Just because people pour their lives into serving each other in this community. And so I'm not concerned about giving away too much money here.
Councillor Wright?
Yeah, I don't think there's any concern of that. Yeah, I recall, I think it was I think it was either a second or third time at this, that there was so much that came in that we started to kind of blanket reduce everybody by like 15 or 20%, so that we made sure that everybody got something, even though we didn't have quite enough to cover the whole ask, without eliminating somebody. So I think that's kind of some of the concern as well, that if you're doing a chunk of up to 10,000 and it eats some of the value, and then we've got another chunk over 10,000, when, maybe when everything lands as a whole in the beginning, you can look and say, okay, we've got this much in ask and only this much available. And so everybody kind of gets that blanket reduction to pull everybody into that space.
Thank you for that. Councillor Botwell?
Thank you. Much along the same lines as Councillor Wright. I only see the number of asks increasing over the next few years, and that will overall mean less money for everybody. I'm not entirely comfortable with no upper limit, because I can again see there might be a need for it, but there's a risk there that there's going to be a year that somebody comes in with a big ask and wipes out the smaller ask groups. And therefore, I don't know if I'm entirely okay with not having an upper tipping point. I'm still undecided on it. I can see the pros and cons of both. And an idea that just popped into my head as Councillor Bright was speaking is, has there been consideration given to everyone just asks for something and we divide it up equally by the number of applicants? I mean, that's the only.
I assure you that has not been
That has not been contemplated, because I know that there are people who ask consistently 20,000, 20,000, 20,000. And there are perhaps other groups that have only been getting 5,000, that they just don't have a big project on the books, but they could do an awful lot with 20,000. I know we also have approved grants in aid to groups that don't operate in Brighton, and the majority of the people aren't from Brighton. So it sounds like those would potentially just drop off with this matrix. Is that part of that as well? Okay.
Treasurer.
There we go. Your worship, sorry, I was so focused on getting my microphone working.
The question was, with the rubric, it would probably eliminate some of the donor requests.
Yeah, that would be definitely a potential. I think when CAO Arthurs did the report for council during this round, it highlighted that there were a number of applicants who were not from the municipality. And so that would be highlighted. And if that's going to be part of the criteria ultimately that we develop, then it would eliminate those types of applicants, yes.
Follow up?
New question, actually.
Go ahead.
We had discussed, not this past season, but previously, we talked about the health related, like hospital related items. Are they going to be included in this, or remind me if we've already changed that? My brain just doesn't.
Treasurer.
Going off a little bit of memory. So there's the larger donation being made at this time that is outside of this program currently. And so in all of these discussions, and this will be all part of budget process, right? And so I think as we look at this policy, if council wishes to fund a specific request that goes above, a 1%, that would always be in their ability to do so. And, a policy like this is a guiding policy in a sense. I think it helps to put an upper limit at the total, and it just makes the process cleaner and easier. If someone were to make a very good case on a request, the policies could be a one-off application. I wouldn't rule that out, and maybe as I'm speaking, that's something that we would build into the policy. But overall, yeah, I think having a 1%, and the reason we got at 1%, we looked at what we actually awarded this year, and it was under the 1%. That is a number that will continue to grow as the levy grows. So it's not static, and that's the one thing I think that's good about the 1%. It will continue to grow.
The 1% is a guiding mechanism for staff during the budget process. If council chooses to, for whatever reason, go above that 1%, it would just simply be requiring direction to amend the draft budget, knowing what the requests for grant and aid were coming in.
Through your worship, that's correct.
Thank you. Anyone else on number 1, Councillor McCausland?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. We just kind of talked about groups that were more based in the municipality and some that were coming from outside. Is there a way that we could prioritize the groups in the municipality?
I think we'll wait to see what the policy looks like, but I'll be surprised if staff comes back with a policy that suggests we fund anybody from outside the municipality. In fact, what we saw this year was advice that we not, and council made other decisions based on activity within the municipality, even though the group was from outside the municipality. Go ahead, Councillor Botwell.
Through you to Mr. Creamer, when might we see this policy? Will it be before this council?
I think the intention would be for this council to pass it on behalf of the next council for their guidance. Treasurer?
Your worship, I'd agree with that statement. So just thinking the timelines in my own head in terms of election and everything coming up. So it would be probably come June, we should have a draft policy in front of council.
You have a few more weeks. Anyone else on number 1? That's their motion before us. All those in favor? Being none opposed, that motion's carried. And carrying on with the divided motion, I have a motion moved by Councillor McCausland, seconded by Councillor Wheeldon, that council authorize the creation of a separate standing grant stream for cemeteries and comparable heritage essential service organizations exempt from the annual competitive process. Any discussion from members of council? Councillor Wheeldon.
This was the one I was going to start with. Because we had talked about having separate streams for cemeteries and for healthcare related ones. Now, since we first had that conversation, I think we've talked about that every year. And over this term, we have not only started getting more and more requests for healthcare related things, but more up to and even exceeding the $20,000 limit that we've had up to this point. But then we've also entered into agreements for much larger ones. And I anticipate that we're likely to do so again. So some of those have kind of bracketed themselves off because they've just asked for so much money that they're not even grants at this point. But I'm wondering, do we still want to have a separate stream or just even a bracket as they're being considered? And secondly, do we want to keep a tally of how much money we spend on healthcare at the municipal level and just make that public?
CAO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, I'll just jump in specifically with the healthcare because I think it was Mr. Creamer. And we did have some discussions more so around hospitals, which essentially fall outside of the municipality. And we talked a lot about the dollar figures and what our expectation is going to be with asks coming from Coburg and Campbellford as they build. Certainly, we've already made the commitment to Trenton. So I think for those specifically, it's something that from a staff's perspective is best if it comes before council and that decision is made. They generally are outside of what we might want to put in a grant application, certainly outside of the municipality. So even going back to the 1%, part of that in my thought process, and I may not have communicated it out loud when we were talking about the development of this, but those dollars would be on top of that 1% too. So I was feeling fairly comfortable with the 1%. In addition, you will have the cemeteries and then any of those, I would say hospital asks, but if we want to talk about healthcare in a more broader sense, or there's something specific, then we might want to identify that this evening. At any time, we can certainly pull the numbers that this municipality is supporting healthcare toward. Yeah, we'll leave it at that.
And we're not alone in that, are we? And just a reminder to everyone that the two hospitals located within Northumberland County have decided not to go to the lower tiers because they're going to the upper tier for a larger ask. So both Campbellford and Northumberland Hills hospitals are doing that, whereas TMH, Trent Memorial Hospital, of course, is outside of Northumberland County. It comes directly to the municipality as one of their Quinte partners. Councillor Botwell.
Thank you, and this is through you to the CAO. I said this sort of tongue in cheek last year, I believe it was. It may have been the year before. They're all blending now. I would really like for it to be tracked what we're spending on healthcare. And I know it's a bold thing to propose, but I'm actually going to ask my fellow councillors to consider it, that at the end of the year, when we complete our budget and we hand the money out, that we send an actual invoice to the province. Whether it goes unpaid or not is irrelevant because we know it's not going to get paid. But I think it's at least, it's a stand. And I would have no problem putting my name to that. It's political suicide, I'm sure, but that's not why I'm here. I just think we have a provincial government that sometimes seems out of touch. And I think that we have contributed a significant amount in this room to our healthcare providers and systems that really, at the end of the day, it's really sad that they've had to come to us.
CAO.
Through Mr. Mayor to Councillor Botwell, I think we can certainly take the information back that we can report on the amount that's being spent on healthcare. And at that point, if council wishes to pass a motion to send off an invoice for an amount, the amount, partial amount, we'll do it at that time.
Thank you both. Is there any further discussion on this motion number 2? Councillor Rowley.
Thank you, Mayor. Based on the comment you made a few minutes ago regarding the upper tier of government supporting more of the hospitals in the county, although I'm sure it comes back to us in the form of the levy, correct? So
yes.
Is there a specific percentage or dollar point that we would pay, that the municipality would pay the county just based on, or is that just all blended as well? It's just kind of in there and we don't see
It
that.
would be part of the county levy. So the municipality, other than writing the check, would collect the taxes from the taxpayer as the municipality collects the tax from the taxpayer and passes on the levy to the county. So it's whatever the county has levied at that point. I don't remember off the top of my head what the 2 hospital requests are, and it may only be Campbellford at this point that's receiving monies from the county of Northumberland because of their significant redevelopment costs at Campbellford, which will benefit us all at the end of the day. Any further discussion on this? Councillor McCausland as the mover, and maybe I'll ask staff if this is a good idea even. Should we add healthcare to the list of, separate standing grant stream? It already is. So adding it, I think, just codifies what we've all been talking about.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, if you would like us to add it as a grant stream, we will.
Okay. Is everybody comfortable with that? Councillor McCausland as the mover. Councillor Wheeldon is the seconder. So it reads now, the creation of a separate standing grant stream for cemeteries and comparable heritage essential organizations, et cetera, et cetera. We'll put a comma, comparable heritage essential service organizations and healthcare and healthcare. Does that work?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, my only concern with that is the cemeteries is going to be something that's going to be administered at the staff level, and the healthcare is going to be something that we're going to bring back to council. So I think if you want something separate for healthcare, we should have it as another item as opposed to combining those together.
Yep, no, it's okay. I'm just thinking about how to do it. Procedurally, can we add to a divided motion? I don't know the answer to this question. That's why I'm asking. Go ahead.
Can you, sorry, through you, can you divide the already divided motion into a 2A and 2B?
I don't think you can. Go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, my suggestion would be continue with this motion, and once you've dealt with this motion, then have a separate motion to add the healthcare.
The standing grant stream for healthcare. Okay, we'll do that. So it'll be a quote number 5, and we'll just add it as part of the discussion that we've had. We don't need to come back as a notice of motion or anything like that. No, okay. Anything further on number 2? Go ahead, Councillor Botwell.
Within the, so we'll call it part 2, cemeteries and comparable heritage essential services organizations. How are those defined, and how will different applicants classify themselves as that? I saw the wink.
Treasurer?
Through your worship, that's something we'll clarify when we bring the policy. I think it's a good question, and we'll make sure that that clarification is there.
Thank you both. Anyone else? All in favor? Being none opposed, that motion's carried. That brings us to item number 3 in our divided motion, moved by Councillor McCausland, seconded by Councillor Wheeldon. That council the council provide the authority for multi-year grant agreements of up to 2 years for qualifying organizations in good standing. Is there any discussion? Mr. Treasurer.
Through your worship, I don't know if anyone else picked up on this, but the rest of the report, we actually did change to 3 years. We had some back and forth during the development of this draft, and we must have missed the actual motion to change it to 3 years. But I think we're open to that discussion. We wanted to keep it definitely less than a term of council. And so for certain applicants, I think up to 3 years could be appropriate. And, you know, I don't think it's going to be awarded unless it isn't appropriate.
So you're suggesting 2 should read 3. Thank you. Discussion. Councillor Botwell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Creamer, how does one determine good standing?
Treasurer.
Through your worship, I think that's there's lots of criteria, but we'll be sure to define that in the policy. I think that's where the financial statements should be assessed. We can look at how previous funds have been used and good standing in the community, taxes paid if they're a property owner. Like there's no there's a number of things we could look at that would say good standing. And I think that term of good standing just protects the municipality to take away the funds and not continue to be tied to an organization. But I think it's a good point that will require definition in the policy.
Follow up.
Yes, just as a follow-up. So you're relatively new to the community. We have some fantastic service groups that have undergone some very difficult years in the past that were in good standing, then suddenly they were not, and it was difficult, and then they've recovered. So I appreciate that there is the, you're looking back at previous years, but being actively on top of it is important. If it's a multi-year agreement, having some very clear benchmarks and transparency through the process is really important, just as a piece of feedback.
Councillor Wright.
As we all struggle with the microphones through you, Mr. Mayor, a 3-year term, my brain starts to ask the question if it's the second or third year of the term of council and someone gets a 3-year term, then that then goes over into possibly a completely new council, and we're asking that council to then take on our commitments for grants and aid. So I'm almost wondering if they're looking for a multi-year term, if it's the first year of the term of council, then they could potentially get 4 years. Second year, it would be 3 years, third year, 2, and then 1 year. That kind of an idea. And that way, the next council gets to choose who they give grants and aids to.
I'm sure that something like that can be codified in the policy, Mr. Creamer.
Through your worship, that's something we can definitely consider. I think the thought is an organization's need to try to have long-term planning doesn't change based on it being the last year of council. But council would reserve the right in that year to not be comfortable going beyond 1 year. But that's something we could look at in the policy, and as we're drafting it, we'll consider.
And we foist these things upon many councils ahead. I mean, I think of a $52 million sewage treatment plant that will be paid for 20 years hence, right? It won't be the next council. It'll be 5 councils from now that is still dealing with that. So, but with what you've said in mind, I think we should remove the number entirely so that it reads authority for multi-year agreements for qualifying organizations in good standing, and then allow staff to come back with a policy that would codify the number of years as per this discussion. As the mover, as a seconder. So with the okay of the mover and the seconder, I've removed the words of up to 2 years, and the rest of the motion stands. Is there any further discussion? Councillor Butwell.
I am chatty tonight. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Creamer, just as a bit of feedback, my thought as Councillor Wright was speaking was if we have an influx of people wanting to secure financing over a number of years, we could be committing 3 years into the future a significant portion of the allocation that will come forward, which does actually potentially restrict new organizations from actually gathering a foothold, something that hasn't even come to light yet. So some limitations or a way to address it, maybe not such a long term. I appreciate you move to a 3-year, but if there's a group that forms next year and they go for their first ask the following year, but 60% of the funds are already taken up by multi-year agreements and they don't have the opportunity to just get off the ground, that would concern me. That would make me feel sad because it somewhat limits. And I agree that we can talk about expanding the percentage that we would be looking at allocating towards the grants and aid. But I would hate to think that a group seeing the money already eaten up might be dissuaded from striking or asking for what they actually needed because they didn't think there was enough left over.
Do you have a comment?
That's for your worship. I definitely a fair point. I think part of this process is going to be for council to make some of those decisions. I think, when these applications are in front of council, sure, there's been a scoring rubric done by council, but for these longer term, I would expect that anything beyond 1 year to require council approval. And if council deems that it's significant, worthwhile investment, that's a multi-year project. That'll be up to council to decide, and I would hate for a policy to limit it. And if it's valuable enough and council of the day wishes to grant that approval, but the risk of that approval is always going to be limiting future applications.
Thank you both. Anything further on the motion? All in favor? Being none opposed, that motion's carried. And the final item in the divided motion is moved by Councillor McCausland, seconded by Councillor Wheeldon, that staff be directed to return with a revised grants and aid policy for council approval, reflecting the direction provided. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Being none opposed, that motion's carried. Please, thank you. How long do you need? We're just going to take it. Yeah, we're going to take it. I want to do it now. So we're going to take a 2-minute recess while staff who have drafted the next motion bring it back. So 2 minutes. Go. Okay, it's 7:33, 7:34 now. I'll call this meeting back to order. And the drafted motion reads that council establish a standing grant stream for hospital funding and advocacy with a mandate to support and coordinate the pursuit of grant and external funding opportunities for hospital-related initiatives. You can move it and make changes if you want. Go ahead.
I could move it. Could we include healthcare opportunities, hospital and healthcare opportunities? And I would move that.
Moved by Councillor Butwell, seconded by Councillor Rowley. I want to make sure I got it right. That council establish a standing grant stream for hospital and healthcare funding and advocacy with a mandate to support and coordinate the pursuit of grant and external funding opportunities for hospital and healthcare related initiatives. As the mover, Councillor Butwell?
I'm so sorry. Could you reread the motion?
I sure can. The council establish a standing grant stream for hospital and healthcare funding and advocacy with a mandate to support and coordinate the pursuit of grant and external funding opportunities for hospital and healthcare related initiatives. Councillor Rowley?
I'm just thinking about that when we talk about outside of the municipality, for one thing, for sure. But I guess those kind of things can be turned down anyway, right? Any requests that we make. So I guess highlighting the fact that we are very supportive of healthcare initiatives, we still have opportunity to refuse some that are over and above what we see as important.
Go ahead, Councillor Butwell.
To my colleague across, yeah. Outside, like, I know that we help to bring physicians into the community that don't necessarily even work in the community. So I don't want to exclude those.
Draw your microphone closer, please.
Really? Yeah, no, I agree with what you said. Yeah, as long as we're not excluding opportunities.
Any further discussion on the motion? All in favor? Being none opposed, that motion is carried. Okay, friends. Our next report is with regard to the Municipality of Brighton 2026 Municipal and School Board election procedures. Deputy Clerk, we've read your report. Do you have anything to add or highlight?
Just a couple things, Mr. Mayor, and through you. First note is that in the recommendation, I have stated start staff or start report number, and that is to read staff. And my fingers did not type that correctly. Second is just that, as you know, election preparations have been underway for some time. We're now getting to the point where I am scheduling events to attend, going off of the announcements of Councillor Wheeldon with the Sports Recreation Showcase. I will also be there. Residents are welcome to come and attend and check the voters list. If they have any questions with me, they're welcome to attend and get questions answered about the voters list or the election. A little early for me to be providing candidate packages, but I'm happy to provide the forms and any information for candidates that I can provide at that time. If I can get the candidates packages completed, I'll have them with me. Yeah, so just public information. I will also be at the Sports and Recreation Showcase.
I think that's appropriate. Local politics is a rough sport at the end of the day.
It
so.
is.
With that, I have a motion moved by Councillor Wright, seconded by Councillor Rowley, that Council receive staff report number CLK 2026-34 regarding the Municipality of Brighton 2026 Municipal and School Board election procedures as information. Is there any discussion? Councillor Rowley.
Speaking with, excuse me, our communication staff, I know there's going to be lots of communication out there over the summer up until Apple Fest and however longer after that. And it's not really part of this report, but I was wondering if I could request, and I don't know if I need to do that through a notice of motion or whatever. I know Councillor Butwell and I spoke about it the last time. If we could have kind of a, let's see, a report after the election is over, as far as what the public thought, if this was totally sufficient, just doing the vote by internet, or if there is really a significant number in the community that would like an alternate option, as whether it be that they could come and pick up a paper ballot or vote by phone or whatever. I'm wondering if we could have a report after the election is over. I don't expect it the day after, but at some
Yeah,
point,
there's
maybe
there's
to prepare for the
there's
next election.
statistical information report that comes out after the election in terms of voter turnout, et cetera, et cetera. But Deputy Clerk, I'll ask you to respond to that, please.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, that's a requirement of the or the clerk and returning officer of the election that we provide a report, including accessibility. Depending on what you're looking for, yeah, it's quite statistical. If you go back to it was probably the first meeting in December of 2022. The municipal clerk provided a report from the 2022 election with very detailed statistics from the voting vendor. It will be very similar, if not more robust, because it's been another 4 years and there's more that they're reporting on. If there's something specific that you're looking for that isn't included in that report, then that's a conversation we would have to kind of determine.
I think the request is to have an understanding if you were hearing, so it's a bit anecdotal, but if you're hearing that alternate voting forms beyond what we're offering are requested by the public, this council would like the new council to hear that.
And through you, Mr. Mayor, if that's a very specific question you'd want asked, then it would be something I would work with the communications team to provide a survey afterwards. The turnout and the comments provided following the 2022 election, with all of the in-person attendance at municipal election help centers that I attended in 2022, I took pretty good note of all of the comments and noted in the final report that the majority of persons voted. I think it was 90, a little over 90% voted from their own home. Less than 10% voted at our kiosks, and the majority of that 10% were quite satisfied and felt they could have done this at home.
Councillor Butwell.
Thank you very much. And I just wanted to make note that after our last conversation that we had in council about the the ballot voting, I was contacted by several people, and I think that the people who want to vote by ballot are actually just not voting. And so hearing from them after the fact or on the day of is not something that we are necessarily likely to be able to gather information on. So they're not going to attend a mobile vote. They're not going to invite you into the home to tell you I'm not voting this way. And I'm glad, because that would be a terrible waste of your time. So is there a way that you could, if you were contacted by the public in between now and the election, if they send an email perhaps that they are wishing to vote by ballot, and they'd like it recorded in that email that they object or something like that, is there something that could be communicated that way? Because I just think the people who are not going to vote are not going to engage in any of the dialogue, because the decision's already been made.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Again, that's where I think I would rely on our communications team and how they would do that. We have received some emails about the online voting, and that resident did come forward to council for that purpose. And again, I would rely on our communications team to get a survey out there to get the public's opinion about their thoughts for that, to gather that information and likely include it in our final report as well.
Thank you. Just as a quick follow-up. So if I'm receiving phone calls or emails, would you like me to formalize it and just forward it off to you, and you can send it wherever it needs to be sent?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, you're welcome to do that, and we can keep a folder in our election folder with that information.
Thank you both. Councillor Wheeldon.
Thank you, Mayor. I do want to say a few things. First, once again, want to appreciate our clerk staff for all of the work they've put into this. This is very thorough. I will also point out that if I wanted to vote federally or provincially in any way other than a paper ballot, because it's my preference, I'm not able to do so. We get to vote the way that we get to vote. I would love to vote online for either of those elections, but that option is not available to me. And so I have to go fill out a form, or I can choose to stay home. And if that's what some people are doing, I am sorry that they don't want to participate in the system the way that it exists, but it is their choice to not participate. Nobody's forcing them to not participate. They have many options available to them in terms of how they can access this, whether that is from their home or from the sessions that Jessica puts on, or even having her come to their home. If they choose not to avail themselves of any of the supports that are available to them, I don't think, like, I worry that sometimes this gets framed as we are withholding something from them or disenfranchising them in some way. And unfortunately, it really seems like this is just their choice. And so I don't want to put that back on our staff as if somehow they've taken something away from us or from residents, or even on this council, as if we've taken something away from residents. People can choose to participate or not. The final thing I want to say about this is just want to encourage residents who have ever thought about throwing their hat in the ring. This is a great time to think about it, and our clerks have a lot of great information about how that works. Please do reach out and figure out if this is a place that you want to serve your community.
Good pitch. Apparently, I'm hearing that there will be a candidate session offered by the Clerk's Department, CAO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you to council. Just a note of caution when we talk about encouraging feedback from those that aren't comfortable voting with the methods that are provided. I want to be sure that we're not going to gather that feedback and assume that that would increase our voter turnout accordingly. Because I do believe that there are a number of people that will only vote electronically, whether that means that they are down south over, during those months. So if we're going to start to encourage the feedback, I think we have to do it broader, and we have to make sure that we're encouraging all the feedback and not just those specifically that are unhappy with the only options that are available and not being able to vote through a paper method or a traditional ballot.
Thank you for that. Anyone else on the motion? Those in favor? Being none opposed, that motion's carried. Brings us to the Joint Compliance Audit Committee Terms of Reference. Deputy Clerk, we've read your report. Do you have anything to add or highlight?
Just to highlight as a follow-up, there is a candidate session happening on May 14th at the county building. Since you mentioned it, there's lots more coming. It just hasn't been advertised yet while I kind of work out the finer details. But as everything gets kind of settled, you'll see communications about all of the places I'll be all year until the election to visit me and ask questions and get information or anything else about the election. Otherwise, nothing to add on the report.
Thank you for that. I have a motion moved by Councillor Rowley, seconded by Deputy Mayor Anderson, that Council enact a bylaw to establish terms of reference for the 2026 to 2030 Joint Compliance Audit Committee as included under the bylaw section of this agenda, and that Council direct staff to proceed with recruitment for the 2026 to 2030 Joint Compliance Audit Committee. Is there any discussion? Those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion's carried. And brings us to the report with regard to the Northumberland Food Policy Council, CAO. We've read your report. Do you have anything to add or highlight?
No, Mr. Mayor, not at this time.
Thank you. I have a motion moved by Councillor Rowley, seconded by Deputy Mayor Anderson, that Council direct staff to add the Northumberland Food Policy Council to the list of council appointments to be assigned following the 2026 municipal election. And the Council direct the CAO to support the Northumberland Food Policy Council with staff resources as identified in this report. Is there any discussion? Councillor Wheeldon.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to thank the CAO for this excellent report and for the support offered. That's fantastic.
Thank you for that. Any further discussion? Those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Next report is the CAO Ongoing Capital Projects Report. CAO, we've read through this report. Do you have anything to add or highlight?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just a quick look when I take a look at our delivery dates and specifically with the downtown banner policy. We are still trying to get some information from Hydro. It's been a bit of a challenge trying to find a contact person. So we still have it on the list. We inadvertently did not change this back or change it to May, but we continue to try to gather all of the details so we can bring it back to council in a fulsome report.
Given that, I have a motion moved by Councillor McCausland, seconded by Councillor Wheeldon. The council received the CAO ongoing report and capital projects update. Discussion? Councillor Wheeldon?
Thank you, Mayor. I see here, beaver trapping and release. Was this in response to the letter from the Kovacs?
The affirmative is being mentioned, yes.
Yeah. When that letter came in, it was with the suggestion that we leave them be. And I see it's listed here as trapping and releasing them. I wonder if you can flesh that out a bit.
CAO?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Wheeldon. I think there have been multiple comments, questions, concerns that have been provided to our Public Works Department. So I believe this report will incorporate all of the feedback we've received.
Thank you. Anything further from members of council? Councillor Rowley?
Thank you, Mayor. I think I have two, but I'll start with one. The Transportation Master Plan policies to be developed in 2026 with hopefully some implementation in 2027. Is that what we're looking at? In order of maybe importance in certain spot?
I think we'll see some implementation this year. Director Lennon?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, we do anticipate some implementation in 2026, especially in relation to traffic calming. That'd be one of the policies that are recommended in the Transportation Master Plan. And we're actively looking at some of the project-related priorities as well. Of course, some of those will have to be budgeted in the future. There are recommendations on timelines in the Transportation Master Plan for many of those projects. But I see traffic calming being the early one.
Noting that we've received some funding provincially for that purpose.
Can I have 2 seconds to find my second question?
I'll give you 3.
Hold on. Maybe it's somewhere. Oh, never mind. It's somewhere else.
Any further discussion on the CAO ongoing report and capital projects update? All those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion's carried. We have no notices of motions and no motions, nothing listed under unfinished business, which brings us to bylaws. The first bylaw is the Joint Compliance Audit Committee Terms of Reference. It's moved by Councillor Butwell, seconded by Councillor Wheeldon, that council gives a bylaw its first, second, and third reading and finally passes on this date. Being a bylaw to establish the terms of reference for the 2026 to 2030 Joint Compliance Audit Committee. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion is carried. Moving on to reports, minutes of advisory committees of council and review teams. There's nothing listed, which brings us to reports and minutes of statutory committees, boards, and external agencies. And it's the DBIA minutes. It's moved by Councillor McCausland, seconded by Councillor Wheeldon. The council received the DBIA meeting minutes for December 11th, 2025 and February 12th, 2026 as presented. Is there any discussion? Those in favor? Being none opposed, that motion's carried. There's nothing listed under correspondence, direction items, endorsements, communications, or petitions, which takes us to FYI correspondence. The first item is updates from Northumberland County, March 30th to April 10th. It's moved by Councillor Rowley, seconded by Deputy Mayor Anderson, that council received the updates from Northumberland County from March 30th to April 10th, 2026. Is there any discussion? Councillor Wheeldon.
Thank you, Mayor. It mentions here that the warming room closing date was extended to April 13th. We are now a week beyond that. Can you confirm, is it closed?
To the very best of my knowledge, it is. I will confirm that and let council know.
Thank you.
Any other questions or points of discussion? All in favor? Being none opposed, that motion's carried. The next item is from the Municipal Engineers Association, comments and concerns, OPS harmonization. It's moved by Councillor Butwell, seconded by Councillor McCausland, that Council receive the Municipal Engineers Association comments and concerns regarding the Ontario Provincial Standards harmonization. Is there any discussion? Councillor Wilden?
Thank you, Mayor.
Welcome.
I wanted to read a brief passage, if that's all right with you. Uh,
You have the floor. I'll let you know if it's not all right.
Under the heading Problem Definition, Need for Evidence and Supporting Data, it says, at present, it is unclear what problems or deficiencies the MTO perceives to exist within the current framework. The MEA and its members are not aware of systemic failures or performance issues that would warrant the breadth, scale, or urgency of the changes being proposed. It is also unclear how these changes are expected to lead to reduced cost, improved efficiency, or better outcomes. Reading this letter from the Municipal Engineers Association about changes coming from an Ontario ministry sounds remarkably like sitting in a meeting of a conservation authority these days. And I expect that school boards are having similar conversations. And I'm sure that a year or two ago, health units were having the exact same conversations. And so I just wanted to draw attention to the way that these amalgamations are causing all sorts of echoes. I'm even hearing them from residents who are talking about the amalgamation of Brighton and Brighton Township and having those feelings and flashbacks. So I know sometimes people notice what we talk about at this horseshoe and mention it to the province. And so I just want to say it again. There's sweeping changes happening, and the people who are being affected by them the most have no idea why or where it's going. There's no rationale and no perceived benefit, but there are changes in representation and power. So I'd love for anyone to give us a rationale for any of these things at any point. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Councillor Butwell?
To Councillor Wilden's point, Mr. Mayor, nobody can figure it out yet. But one day hindsight will be 2020. And I guess we will find out then.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Being none opposed, that motion's carried. And the last item on the FYI correspondence comes from J.L. Richards, Brighton Wastewater Treatment System Upgrades Progress Update Report number 2. It's moved by Councillor Wright, seconded by Councillor Rowley. The Council receives the Brighton Wastewater Treatment System Upgrades Progress Update Report number 2, provided by J.L. Richards and Associates Limited. Discussion? Councillor Wright?
On the very first 1.1 schedule, a baseline schedule has not been approved to date. Is there a baseline schedule that is like in pencil somewhere and it's just not been approved? Can we get a baseline schedule? And do we even know if there's an anticipated finish date as of yet?
Director Lennon?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, there is a scheduled finish date. It's October 2027 as the project advances and there's changes to original design. That date may change, but that is the target date. The baseline schedule is the total schedule for the entire project. The contractor has provided interim schedules 3 and 6 weeks out, and J.L. Richards, our consultant, is monitoring that closely. So the project is being managed as far as schedule goes, but the baseline is like the overall project. And that's there's been lots of conversation regarding that schedule. It just hasn't been finalized.
Thank you for that. Councillor Rowley?
Thank you, Mayor. Hauling topsoil off-site, is that an ongoing summer project?
Director Lennon?
Done?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I certainly hope not. No, the target is the next couple to 3 weeks, we should be done the bulk haul. And there will be periodic minor hauling throughout the project, but the bulk of the excavation for the structure itself should be completed shortly.
Director, on that subject, I think we're all a bit concerned about Telephone Road. I know you and your team are concerned about Telephone Road, as am I. Your team provided the residents of Telephone Road with a little love letter talking about what's going on. I wonder if you could just give us the highlights of that for council's information for when they are contacted.
Certainly, and through you. So at a staff level, we have received a number of calls, not a large number of calls, but mostly they're just inquiries about what's taking place. So we thought it prudent to just distribute to mailboxes just a summary of where we are with the project, why things are happening, and next steps. Part of that was just describing the remaining estimated number of weeks for the bulk haul with the increased number of trucks, as well as the maintenance work that's going to be required on Telephone Road. There are 3 locations that have been impacted by the truck haul. The remaining locations were ongoing previous year issues that would need to be addressed in the long term. So we explained the timing of that and then the eventual resurfacing of Telephone Road as well. So I think that's been well received. There's just there's one particular location that's in rough shape, and that's mostly due to the amount of rain that we've received over the past few weeks. With this week, with less rain in the forecast, we hope to see that be more of a passable location. But once the bulk haul is done, we will be repairing those locations as well as performing some drainage improvements along various sections of the road.
Thank you for that. Councilor Rowley.
Just want to follow up on that comment. I have spoken to a few of those residents on Telephone Road, and they were very appreciative of having the letter so that they know really what's going on. So thank you for that.
Thank you both. Councilor Batwell.
Thank you. I think you both covered it. I'm interested, Director Lynn, and through you, Mr. Mayor, the comment that there's resurfacing that will need to be done. Does it go beyond resurfacing? Because there's a couple of pretty deep chasms. And I'm suspecting there might be more damage than just the double air up on top.
Go ahead.
Through the mayor. Yeah, the areas that require repair will be full depth excavation repairs. They weren't caused by the trucking. They existed prior to. There's work that needed to be done on Telephone Road for a number of years, I would say. So that those locations, the worst locations, if you drive that road, will be full depth excavations, geotextile, appropriate depths and compaction of granular material, and as well as some ditching improvements so that not only we're getting the water off the road appropriately, but we're getting it away and then resurfacing.
Thank you for that. Go ahead.
Thank you. I was asked by one resident if they end up blowing a tire. Do we have a process?
They contact their insurance company.
They contact the insurance company. Okay, and one additional question, because I actually had the question under 2.2 as well about hauling topsoil off-site. Was some of that material that was excavated out from one of the, and has been taken up for dewatering? Did I hear that incorrectly through the grapevine?
Not clear on the question. I guess all the earth that is being hauled from the wastewater treatment plant location's been tested, and it's suitable for reuse, and we can repurpose it at our pit for rehabilitation. Cambium consultants were hired to do the excess soil report, so it's all and they're managing not only the hauling and the testing, but the stockpiling. No other materials went to any other location from that project.
Thank you both. Anyone else? All in favor? Being none opposed, that motion is carried. That brings us to question period. Is there anyone in the gallery that has a question with anything that appeared on tonight's agenda? Yes, sir. Anyone online for that purpose? Thank you. That brings us to our closed session motion. Yeah. That if it wasn't on tonight's agenda, then no, but Drew, please, please. No, there's no discussion about that tonight. Yeah, thank you. Feel free to contact Ben or give me a shout. Okay, thanks, Drew. I'll read the motion to go into closed session. If council chooses to do so, we'll take a 10-minute recess before we reconvene in the closed session. It's moved by Councillor Butwell, seconded by Councillor Wheeldon, that council resolve in the closed session, excuse me, April 20th, 2026 at 8:05 PM pursuant to the Ontario Municipal Act RSO 2001 as amended subsection 239(2)C, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board to discuss land transactions. Is there any discussion? All in favor? There being none opposed, that motion's carried. It is 8:05 PM. We will reconvene at 8:15. Little more, a little more. Thank you. I have a motion moved by Council Rowley, seconded by Council Wright. The council rise and report from closed session, April 20th, 2026 at 8:19 p.m. In accordance with subsection 239(2) of the Ontario Municipal Act 2001 to discuss matters pertaining to to discuss a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipal local board, and further that council approve the direction provided to staff with respect to a proposed acquisition of land, including authorization to enter into negotiations with final terms and conditions to be subject to council approval and the execution of a purchase and sale agreement satisfactory to the municipality, and that a procedural motion to adopt the closed session minutes of April 13th, 2026 was voted on during the closed session. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Being none opposed, that motion is carried. And our confirmatory bylaw is moved by Councillor McCausland, seconded by Councillor Wheeldon, that council gives a bylaw its first, second, and third reading and finally passes on this date, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Corporation of the Municipality of Brighton Council meeting held on April 20th, 2026. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Being none opposed, that motion's carried. And finally, a motion moved by Councillor Wright, seconded by Deputy Mayor Anderson, that that the April 13th, 2026 council meeting adjourn at 8:20 p.m. Is there any discussion? It's not, but that's what it said, so I just read it. Councillor Wright, as the mover, I have amended this to read April 20th. Are you okay with that? Deputy Mayor, are you okay with that? I thought you would be. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Being none opposed, that motion's carried. And may we remain steadfast in our duty to serve with honesty, fairness, and compassion for the balance of this term, and may God save the King. Thank you, everyone.